Welcome back to Sketch a Day. It is Spencer back again to sketch with you and tell you everything I know about sketching in perspective, specifically 3-point perspective. If you recall, last time we sketched this cool pencil sharpener. There we are. This cool pencil sharpener, and we also went over just exactly what is 2-point perspective. Caught me looking at my monitor there. What exactly is 2-point perspective? So this time we'll be looking at 3-point perspective and how I go about sketching that. So let's get into it. If you recall, last time I had this visual aid of the picture plane represented by this clear sheet of acrylic, nifty little sheet here. And we talked about 2-point perspective being just the edge of this cube, okay, being in contact with this picture plane. Now 3-point perspective is a little different, where now we just have one edge, or one corner rather, of this cube that is touching the picture plane. So here in the top view here, you can see now it's just a corner rather than one edge. In fact, you can kind of see the effects of that a little bit in the camera where these far edges seem to be converging to some point. But essentially that is what 3-point perspective means, that there's one point of contact with the object and the picture plane. You can think of it that way. So where do you normally see 3-point perspective? Well, truth be told, we see 3-point perspective everywhere we are. Because of the nature of 3-point perspective, I'm going to have to rotate my page here, but it all starts with a horizon line, much like our other examples. We have a right vanishing point and a left vanishing point. Okay, so if I'm going to start an object, rather than starting with a line or a face, I'm going to start with a point. So I draw a line to my face, to my right vanishing point, and a line to my left vanishing point. Now, with 3-point perspective, there is another point further down on the page. I'm going to have to zoom out here so you can see the whole thing. Okay, so my third point, point number 3, is all the way down here, the bottom of my page. And that's so I can get a nice, proportionally good drawing. So if I go up to here, or rather, from this point, the first point that I drew up, okay, that would be now the leading edge of my drawing. Now the vanishing point doesn't have to be directly below this point. It could have been off to the side. You know, I could have this line defining that front corner being like that. But I find that in terms of drawing, say something like a cube, where I can mark the height of my cube, I'm going to get a more natural feel if I keep that point just below that third vanishing point, just below that first point that I drew. So now what I'm going to do is mark where I think, proportionally speaking, and draw through that line, the edge of this cube or box would be represented. Same thing on the other side here. Go through that point. There I have my other side. So now I have two faces of this cube or box, okay? And now I can go to my right vanishing point like so, and over to my left vanishing point like so. Okay, just with a little outline, we can clean this up with my fat Sharpie here. And you can see, hopefully, I'll pull up the 2-point perspective example here so we can compare. But there's definitely a little more dynamic to the sketch on the left, okay? And that word is dynamic. Okay, there's more of that quality here than there is here. This feels more static. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing a 2-point perspective, but how we see things in the real world tends to be a 3-point perspective. Truth be told, those vanishing points are so far apart that it's really subtle, the 3-point perspective that we see. But if you're a photographer and you put something like a 28mm lens on your camera, it's going to exaggerate perspective a little bit. Or even if you get down into the teens in terms of your focal length or millimeter rating for your lens, you'll start to see that distortion and dynamic happen in a much more accelerated fashion. So what does that mean for sketching? Well, usually most of the time I sketch in a 3-point perspective. Now, Where would you see this? Again, pretty much everything and anything. But I think a really good example is if you go outside, wherever you live, and you look at some building or structure that is there. So I may start by setting up a scene like this, where now my horizon line is at the bottom of my page here, and I've got some line representing an edge, okay, of this thing. Now I'm going to pretend my vanishing points are off to the sides, okay, all the way out here to the sides. Or I could pretend that they are here, but if I were to do that, I get a very, very exaggerated perspective. Now, well, let's just leave them there. So left vanishing point, right vanishing point. So let's say this is some building, some structure I'm kind of sketching, you know, maybe in a more architectural style. Then I can pretend, again, that there's some third vanishing point, in this case, way off my page here, and there's some convergence that's happening there. And let's say we have some form that is jutting out of the side of my building. Okay, and I can do something like that and start to create essentially, let's say this is some, I'm going to have convergence here, so this would actually converge like that. Now we're kind of getting to the limits of our field of view, and I'm going to cheat this side a little bit so we can see, but what's happening to my sketch here is I'm starting to encounter distortion, okay, some serious distortion on this edge of my sketch. So maybe this is some sort of breezeway, walkway thing through there, and maybe there's some other form coming out of this side up here. But you can see that once you have a system worked out, okay, and for me this doesn't happen as I go, so I'm not constantly like checking my vanishing points. You just kind of get used to it, and then you're able to kind of sketch whatever you want. So once you understand the principle, it becomes fairly easy to start sketching these things out, okay? So let's say this is my quick architectural sketch, and for the architects out there, I apologize if this is horrible, but I just wanted to point out you know, stylistically what three-point perspective means and how you typically would see this phenomena show up in real life. So let's go ahead and finish this off. Right, so I'm radiating all my lines from my vanishing points here, and I'm going to extend this out just a little bit through there. And we'll throw some marker on this one this time just for fun. I know we haven't been using any markers recently, but we'll just throw that in here. Okay, so now I have this kind of intersection point. Maybe this is the corner office on this building or structure here. And we've got, you know, some canopy. Maybe this is the entrance to the building, right over here. Architects are way better at this than I am, so again, forgive me for making a mockery of your profession or attempting to do this. Okay, so let's just throw a little marker on and see kind of what we end up with. So some shadow on our underhangs here, and maybe just a couple lines through here. And perhaps a color change, you know, if this is some sort of facade, right? And some line weight through there, of course, so that's what I do. A little bit of an overhang. And some detail. These pillars. Okay, so what about towards us on this structure, right? You know, we can start to map out. So maybe this is some walkway that comes this way. You could even do some sort of stair or landing type thing coming through there. Some plaza detail, for example. But again, I'm just using these vanishing points that we've set up, right? We just set up the rules. Now I can use these rules to then create, you know, maybe here's some people down in this area here. Okay, maybe some people down in there, and on this side of the building, I've got maybe some shadow. And perhaps a little bit of grass through here. Just keeping it light, keeping it sketchy. Again, I'm not an architect, but if I were drawing, you know, some sort of building or design, I may do something like this. Okay, and you can see that line weight just really helps punch our details. So all these principles I talk about, you know, they work generally speaking in terms of communicating an idea. There's not any one way to do things. I mean, granted, each profession has its set of techniques. I'm going to line this with wood here. Okay, so each profession has its own set of techniques, but the point is, visual communication is visual communication, right? So here I am, again, checking my perspective so that I have the right angle on these lines, my wood paneling. Just starting at that point and fanning out. Again, if this were a real sketch, I probably wouldn't set up the vanishing points the way I have here, but you can see that by doing that, I'm able to sketch pretty accurately. Just a quick concept for some kind of structure, okay? Some kind of architectural scene. So again, I've got a vanishing point up here, and I've got vanishing point 2 here, and a vanishing point 1, and there's my third vanishing point up above. And that's how you basically do a 3-point perspective. Okay? And I can't stop. Sometimes I run into that when I sketch. I just can't stop there. I'm going to stop there. Thanks again for joining. Hopefully you've been able to pick up some useful information about 3-point perspective. And if you missed out on our 2-point and 1-point videos, I'll provide some links here at the end, and you can check those out as part of the series. So hopefully, again, you're picking up some good stuff. If you like what you see, be sure to subscribe. If you do, you'll be the first to know when I post a new video, whether it's late at night or whatever time, crazy time I've edited and posted my video. You'll be the first to know. Also, you can find me on Instagram at sketchaday.com or facebook.com/sketchaday. Until next time, we'll see you. Keep practicing, keep sketching, and keep it real. We'll see you. This is Spencer for Sketchaday. Peace.